Okay, so for homework this week, we want to do the exercises from 3.1. So let's go ahead and just get started on the first one. Since there's only three, should have enough time to do them all. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat. So if you need to open it up to follow along, you can do so. All right, so this one is easy enough, but it's a little confusing in terms of like what they're asking for, I think, especially if you're a new programmer. So you might be seeing this, you might have looked at this on your own, and like, I'm not sure exactly what they want me to do. And then once I explain it, you'll see that it's actually pretty simple. Okay, so the first step is to basically create a scanner object so that we can ask a user for two numbers, two integers. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started with that, and then we'll walk through the rest of the assignment. All right, so first thing, I want to create a scanner. They've already imported the class for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and create a scanner. I'm going to say scanner, I'll call it input, and then we'll go ahead and instantiate it with our new scanner, and then we always pass in system.in. Okay, done. Now we need to ask for two numbers. And let me see what their test run looks like, because I'm not sure if they want you to ask for two numbers. Okay, so we're only prompting them once, and then the user can just answer two numbers instead of prompting enter the first number and then enter the second number. So we're gonna ask them to enter two numbers. So we're gonna prompt them with a print statement. So let's go ahead and put that print statement. Line, and then in quotes I'm going to say enter two numbers. So the next step that they didn't put in comments is that we need to store these things. So store the two ints that the user inputs. So that means we need to create two integer variables and then use that scanner method next int to grab them. Okay, so the first integer, let's just call it first. And I'm going to say that first is going to get the next int. So remember, I have to call that on my scanner object. So it's input.nextInt. So this gets the first number that the user inputs. And then I have to call this nextInt method one more time to get the second one. So let's go ahead and create another variable called second. That's going to store that integer. And then we're going to call input.nextInt again. And that's going to get the second int. There we go. So now we've prompted the user for two numbers. The user has hopefully entered in those two numbers, and we've stored them now into two variables, one called first and one called second. Now here comes the part where we actually have to use Boolean operators to make these comparisons. So what we're going to do is we're going to create three Boolean variables to make these comparisons. So we're going to check to see if the first number is less than the second number. We're going to check to see if the first number is equal to the second number. And then we're going to check to see if the first number is greater than the second number. And these numbers that they're putting in here are just an example run. So this is what would happen if the user put in 10 and 12. We're not actually physically putting in these numbers or anything. Okay, so let's create our three Boolean variables. Let's say Boolean, let's see, what should we call these things? I'm going to call this less than, because we're checking to see if the first number is less than the second number. And so again, we're going to have to check to see if the first number is less than the second number. So what are we going to put on the right-hand side of this equal symbol? What do you guys think? If I want to check to see if the first number is less than the second number. You can look in this area for a hint. How do I check to see if the first number is less than the second number? Yep, that's absolutely correct, San. So rather than putting, hard-coded numbers like it appears here, we're going to compare the two variables. We're going to say, is first less than second? And that's going to evaluate to either a true or a false, depending on what the values were that the user put in when we prompted them. Okay, so second, we want to check to see if the two numbers are equivalent or equal to one another. So let's go ahead and call this one, this Boolean value, equal to. Okay. Now, what do I want to put on the right-hand side of this one if I want to check to see if my first and second numbers are equal to one another? Yes. Great job, Geraldine. So we want to put first and then the double equal symbol to check for equivalence to the second number. Perfect. And again, that's going to evaluate either to a true or a false, depending on what those values are, the values of first and second. Last, we want to check, according to this, we want to check to see if the first number is greater than the second number. So we'll call this greater than. So in this case, what do we want to put on the right-hand side of this equal sign here? What Boolean statement do we want to put here? We want to check to see if the first number is greater than the second number. Yes. So we're going to put first greater than second. So again, this will also evaluate to either a true or false, depending on what the user puts in for the first and the second numbers. And so each of these three Boolean values or Boolean variables will get a true or a false value depending on the evaluation of each Boolean expression here. So this is a Boolean expression that can result in true or false. Here's another Boolean expression that will result in a true or a false. And then here's a Boolean expression that will result in a true or a false. So we should have values for each of these three Boolean variables by the point that these three lines run. So now what do? We're going to then print out something that looks like this. So we want to print out basically what we're evaluating. So we want to show our first number and then the less than symbol. And then we want to show the second number, a colon, and then we just want to print out the Boolean value of this first variable, less than. Okay, so the first result we're going to show is display the result of the less than statement. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to get our print statement ready. So system.out.print line. And so for this, we want to show our first value first. Okay, so I'm going to put in here first. Okay, so if that value is 10, just like in this example, it'll show 10. Then I want to go ahead and I want to concatenate a symbol. The symbol I want to concatenate is this less than symbol. And I want spaces on either side so I get this nice padding that you see here. So I'm going to put a space, I'm going to put the less than symbol, and then another space. And now, on the right-hand side of that less than symbol, I also want to show the second value. So I'm going to go ahead and put second here. And so if my second value is 12, just like in this example, I should see 10 less than 12. Notice that I also need a colon, so we can go ahead and concatenate that as well. We don't need a space on the left, but let's put a space on the right-hand side. And then finally, I'm going to print the Boolean value that got stored into less than as a result of checking to see if first is less than second. So my last step here is just to concatenate whatever the Boolean value stored in less than is. And then don't forget your semicolon at the very end of that statement. Okay, so at this point, we can go ahead and check to see if our code works. And then we'll go ahead and do these last two lines here. So let's go ahead and run this right now. Run. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the same exact numbers that we're using, 10 and 12. So go ahead and put 10, and then I'll put 12. Okay, so we see 10 is less than 12, and we correctly see that it has been evaluated to true, which is being stored in less than. Now let's go ahead and finish this up by putting two more print statements that will show us whether or not the two numbers are equivalent and whether or not the two numbers are, or the first number is greater than the second number. So actually, it'll be quite easy if we just copy this line, and then we'll just edit it a bit. So this is going to be to display the result of the equal to statement. So go ahead and paste that line in. And what we've got to edit here is, instead of less than, the less than symbol, let's go ahead and put in the double equal symbol, the equivalency symbol. And then, so that's all good. That's going to put our first number is equal to our second number, a colon. And then for our Boolean value, instead of less than, we actually want to show the Boolean value of equal to. That checks this statement here, whether or not the first and second number are equivalent. So let's go ahead and put that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy this line, and I would like someone to let me know how I can edit it. So for this last one, we want to display the result of the greater than statement. So what do I need to change in line 29 if I want to display something like this? There's two things I need to change. What do I want to change in line 29? Yeah, we're going to change the double equals symbol to the greater than symbol. Oops, that's a question mark. And then there's one more thing I want to change. I want to print out a Boolean value. Which one should I be printing out? Yeah, let's change the equal to greater than, because that's what's actually evaluating whether or not first is greater than second. Perfect. All right, so let's test it out. Let's run that code, and we will go ahead and use 10 and 12 for our tests again. 10, 12. Okay, so we see 10 is less than 12, true. 10 is equal to 12, that's false. 10 is greater than 12, that is also false. So let's do one more test. Let's do 4 and 4. Okay, so now we get true for the equivalency and false for the less than and the greater than. So that's as expected. If we click on check the code, it'll check against a bunch of different test cases, and it should pass all of those. All right. Any questions before we move on to the next one? So it's a lot of work for just like testing to see if two numbers are less than, equal to, or greater than, mostly because they wanted us to use the scanner for user input and then to print out complete sentences at the end. But good practice. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our second problem. Sugar tax. Okay, so basically they want us to build a program that will let us know if we can eat more sugar or not today. That's always fun. So it says that in this program, we're going to ask the user to enter the number of grams of added sugar they have eaten today. And then we're going to use 30 grams as the cutoff point to see if the user can eat more sugar. Yum. Okay, so one thing I'm unclear about is if I'm eating 30 grams, can I still eat more sugar? Is it less than or equal to? I think maybe 30 is the limit. So let's see our test cases, or let's see. Using 30 grams. I think it's if you've eaten 30 grams or more, you can't eat any more sugar. So as long as you're like at 29 or lower, you should be able to eat more sugar. Okay, let's do it that way, and then we can always adjust if it says we're wrong. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we want to prompt the user for how much sugar in grams they've eaten today. So that's just our basic print statement. System.out.print line. Okay, just paste that statement right in there. And then what do we need to do? We need to, oh, I'm sorry, we have to create the scanner object. I pasted that in the wrong place. So this should actually come after that. Let's go ahead and cut that and paste that here, because that's where we're actually asking. We've got to create our scanner object first. So scanner, input, create a new scanner, and then we always remember that we have to pass in system.in for this to work. Okay, so now we've got our scanner object. We have prompted the user. We want to go ahead and store the user input as, I believe, a whole number only. Yeah, as an int. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we need to create an integer variable, right? So let's name this sugar grams. Sugar grams. Kind of sounds like those candygram things that you do in school, like during Valentine's and Halloween and all that. So sugar grams is gonna get the next integer that the user put into the input. So we're gonna say input dot next int. So that'll go ahead and save user input. And now we need to determine whether or not you can eat more sugar or not. Very important question, right? Okay, so this is going to be a Boolean expression, meaning that we need to store the result in a Boolean variable. So we're going to say Boolean, there we go. Let's name this variable can eat more sugar. That's a long variable name, but whatever. It makes sense. Can eat more sugar. Is it true or is it false? Okay, so under what condition can I eat more sugar? Write me a Boolean statement that I can use to determine whether or not I can eat more sugar. So you're gonna need to use sugar grams and then our cutoff point here. So what Boolean statement can I use to determine if I can eat more sugar today? What do you think? So far, yeah, there we go. So you're gonna check to see if sugar grams, that's the number of grams of sugar you've had today, is less than our cutoff point, which we're told is 30 grams. So we're gonna use that. And then finally, we're gonna print out something like this. So we're gonna have a final print statement. So print whether or not you can eat more sugar. Okay, so we're gonna have a print statement for that. System.out.println. And what are we gonna put in there? We're gonna put in this string right here. You can eat more sugar, colon space. And then how are we gonna get this true or false? What do we need to concatenate at the end of that statement? Hint, hint, we need a Boolean. Yep, can eat more sugar, yes. So that'll either be a true or a false. Ooh, what did I do here? Get that out of there. We're gonna concatenate can eat more sugar, which will be a true or a false depending on how many grams of sugar that I've eaten today. All right, don't forget your semicolon here at the edge of the statement. What happened here? Why did it put system? Did I do that? Or did I paste something? Okay, let's go over this. So we got a print method. In between your parentheses, you're gonna put in quotes, how many grams of sugar have you eaten today? Make sure there's a space here. And then finally, you're gonna concatenate that can eat more sugar Boolean variable. And then close out your parentheses and do not forget your semicolon. There we go. So let's run this. Let's say that, how many grams of sugar have you eaten today? Someone say, you can make it up. You've eaten 30? At least. 200, okay. 200, you cannot have more sugar today. You have to like purge that sugar. No, please don't do that. Don't do that. No, can you eat something to reverse sugar? It was fiber, right? You can eat fiber, but then don't eat too much fiber because then, yeah, you'll be on the toilet for way too long. Too much information or just enough. This is your education for today. All right, so let's try another number. Let's try 20. Okay, says true because 20 is less than 30. What if I put 30? And this was my question, is 30 like the limit? So we'll see once we click on check the code. So if I'm at 30, I think that's the true limit. That's, you can't eat any more sugar. The last line, yeah. Here's the last line, the print statement. Let me expand this out a bit. There it is. So you've got your print statement. You've got this string right here that says how many grams of sugar have you eaten today. Make sure you have a space in there, otherwise your true or false is going to be smashed up against the question mark. And then you're going to have this concatenation symbol, and then our Boolean variable can eat more sugar, which will result in a true or a false, depending on the evaluation of this statement right here. All right. All good, Geraldine? Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's, I wanted to check to see if it passes all the tests. So let's go ahead and do check code. And I believe we've done it right. Yeah, just check 30. So it should be, yeah, it should be false. Cool. Oh, that's why. Because I pasted in, oh my goodness. Okay, I pasted in the wrong text here. I was trying to go too fast. So let's just edit that. It's not going to affect whether you get it right or wrong, but just to be neat, we want to paste in you can eat more sugar and then true or false. That's what I did wrong. Okay. Now if we run that, now I can put in 30 and that'll say you can eat more sugar, false. That makes way more sense than how many grams of sugar have you eaten today, true or false. That's not a yes or no question. Silly. So here, I'll go ahead and paste that line in there for you in case you missed it. This should be the last line of your program for added sugar. All right, so I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to go for, we usually meet for 30 minutes, but we can meet for 45. If you would like to spend another 10 minutes going over the last question, yes or no. Otherwise, I can record it during 6th period and post it. Okay, I'll just go ahead and continue. If you have to take off, you can take off, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go do the last one here, which is triple double. Okay, so in this last one, a triple double is when you end a game with statistics in 3 different categories that are at least 10, like 10 points. So if you scored 10 points, got 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in a game, you have a triple double. Sports, right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and create a program that asks the user to enter their number of points, rebounds, and assists. And we're gonna do that. We're gonna get those numbers by using nextInt as a scanner method. So that's the first step. Let's just go ahead and do that before we move on. So we're gonna go ahead and prompt the user for 3 stats. And that's gonna be 3 separate prompts, it looks like. So we're gonna go ahead and, looks like we already have our scanner object. We don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and prompt the user. So first prompt is gonna be prompt for points. So in a print statement, we are going to ask the user, how many points did you score? Okay, so that's the first prompt. And the user's gonna go ahead and enter in a whole number for the number of points that they scored. So we're gonna have to store user input as an int. Okay, so this will be the number of points they scored. So I'm gonna go ahead and create an integer variable called points. And we're gonna go ahead and grab that number that they input by saying input.nextInt. Okay, so that covers the first value. Now we need to prompt for the number of rebounds. So prompt for rebounds. So we're gonna go ahead and put another print statement, system.out.println. Go ahead and copy this guy right here. So it says, how many rebounds did you get? Go ahead and put that one in there. And again, we have to store this user input. So we're gonna store user input as an int since the number of rebounds is also a whole number. So we'll call this, it's gonna be an int type. We'll just call it rebounds. And again, we're just gonna grab that from user input. So we're just gonna put input.nextInt. All right, our third and final prompt is going to be for the number of assists. So I'm gonna put prompts for assists. And again, we're gonna put another print statement, line, and we'll go ahead and copy what they have over here. How many assists did you have? And remember, always remember your semicolon at the end of your statement. Easy to miss sometimes. Again, we need to store that to an integer. So store user input as an int, since assists will always be in whole numbers. So we're going to say another integer variable is going to be called assists. And again, we'll go ahead and grab that from user input. So input.nextInt again. All right, so now we have our 3 values. Now we've got to create 3 Boolean variables that assesses whether or not we got 10 points or more for each of these, for points, rebounds, and assists. So let's start with the first one. So this first Boolean, let's call it, I'll say enough points. So did we have enough points to qualify for a triple-double? So I'm going to check to see if my points value is greater than or equal to 10. right? Because I need 10 or more. So I need a greater than or equal to. All right. Now help me out in finishing the rest. So I need another Boolean that'll check rebounds. So what should I put here for enough rebounds? What Boolean statement do I need to put there? Want to check to see if I have enough rebounds to qualify for a triple double. Yes, I want to put rebounds is greater than or equal to 10. Perfect. And then for my third one, I'm going to check to see if I have enough assists. So what is that going to look like? What do I need to put on the right-hand side of this equal sign here? Coughing over there? Assists, yeah, assists greater than or equal to 10. Perfect. So remember, all three of these have to be true for it to be a triple double. But luckily enough, they're not going to ask us to determine that, because that involves another thing that we haven't covered yet, but we will very soon. And so those are called compound Boolean expressions, when you check to see if more than one thing is true. But luckily, they just want us to print out whether or not each of these is true. So either a true or a false. So we're going to print out 3 different statements, and each of them will have a Boolean value concatenated to them. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this off. We're going to start off with a system.out.println. Okay, so the first statement we want to print is you got 10 or more points. Oops, I didn't copy it. You got 10 or more points. Okay, at the end of this, we want to say whether it was true or false. Now, what variable need I concatenate at the end of the statement to show whether or not I have 10 or more points? Which Boolean from this list? Yes, enough points. So we're going to concatenate that at the end of this string here, enough points. And I'm going to go ahead and, I can't do that. Let me temporarily do that so you can see the whole line. Okay, so that's our statement for whether or not we got 10 or more points. We need to do this for the other 2 as well. So add another print statement. And for this one, it'll be whether or not we got enough rebounds. So the statement is going to be you got 10 or more rebounds. And then we need to concatenate a Boolean that will let us know whether or not we got enough rebounds. So which Boolean do I want to put at the end of this? Enough rebounds, yes. Enough rebounds. Perfect. And then for our last print statement, line. The last print statement, we're going to say you got 10 or more assists. Put that in quotes. And then what do I need to concatenate at the end of this statement? Yes, Geraldine, it's already on it. Enough assists. Perfect. Okay, so let's just go ahead and test it out. Run the code. It should ask us for 3 different things. So let's go ahead and put 10 for each of them. So we got true for all 3 because remember it's greater than or equal to. Let's do one more test. let's say 9, 12, and 2. So we've got false for the first one because 9 is not less than or equal to 10. We got true for rebounds because 12 is, or sorry, greater than or equal to 10. And then 2 is not greater than or equal to 10. So we got false. Cool. So click on check the code and it should check against a whole bunch of them. Perfect. Looks like we've got everything covered. All right, so that's your homework for this week. Hopefully that helped you out. If you needed extra time to kind of re-watch the video that I'll post at the end of class, that's totally fine. The due date is tomorrow, the end of tomorrow.